her down. From rats on up to riches, 15 minutes you can fly. Pretty blue lights along the way, help you right on by. And the blue lights shining with a heavenly grace, help you right on by.
Emotion of awe. So awe is an experience that is overwhelming to us because it's so big, it's so vast, and also it demands that you kind of recalibrate the way that you think about something. For example, when you go to see that Milky Way, it's just so vast, so huge. When you look at every one of those stars and realize that they're light years away, that they may be dozens of times, hundreds of times, thousands of times bigger than our sun, that they may not even exist anymore. You may just be seeing the light, and not the actual object. All those things are just so vast and so huge that it's kind of overwhelming and hard to take in. And then the recalibration part of it is it makes you think, well, who am I in this? Here I am on this planet Earth, in this solar system, in this part of the Milky Way, and you're part of this. And you have kind of a responsibility, being part of that system. So that's the emotion of awe. It can happen in lots of different ways too. It happens in nature, but it also happens when you see a beautiful piece of art. It happens when you hear an amazing symphony. It can happen between people. So the emotion of awe can happen in different ways. But the most common way that it happens for people is in nature. The only time you ever remember your grandfather really being in nature was on the fishing trips that we went on. Our very earliest trips in nature were to go to LaSalle. We'd go to this place called Mitchell's Creek, I remember. And Mitchell's Creek was just this really pretty, lazy little creek. And there would never be anyone there. It would just be us fishing. We would dig holes in the ground, collect earthworms, put them on a hook, use bamboo poles with red and white bobbers in the water, and we would catch these fish. And it was so hilarious. We'd be so excited to catch these little fish. And then we'd always have a cookout. We'd have hot dogs that we roasted over a fire, over an open fire. And that was just like a huge day for us, for my two brothers and myself, to be out in nature that way. And I was a young adult, like about your age. I was just ready to do something fun and different. So I signed up for an Outward Bound, and I went to the Gore Range, and we were outdoors. We slept outside in tents, of course. We had vigorous hikes every day. We also did rock climbing and rappelling. So it was a big nature experience for me. I'd never really done anything like that before, but it was exciting to do it and to find out that I could do it successfully, and then it just made me want to camp out, do other trips like that. It was something that I loved a lot, and then I introduced Mom into it because she really had not done much hiking before. So we started doing hikes together, and then we started taking nature vacations together, and then finally she was like, yeah, I love this too. And it was kind of the same way with you and your brother. You didn't immediately like it. Like some of the hikes you found kind of boring and not that interesting. Then over time, we just kind of persisted with it, and everyone got one over, one by one. I think as long as I live, when I look back on the things that really brought me joy and connection, it'll be like a day like that, fishing with you. I would love it, if you and your brother could share nature experiences, if you decide to have children, help them to appreciate it. Maybe you learned a lesson in that sometimes it doesn't happen on the first try. Sometimes you can find it tough to kind of tear away from the screens and find that nature is interesting. But if you persist, if you just hike and have experiences in nature that are fun, I think that they can learn to love it. And then once they learn to love it, the next step is how do they also help to preserve it, learn about conservation, and learn what their personal responsibility is. There's sadness to it if we're not treating Mother Earth as well as we should, and that it's going to be less available, to the next generations. It's hard to say. We'll see. I think it's going to be more and more difficult to just spend time outdoors. We'll have a climate that is warming. The polar ice caps that are melting. All of those common things. So I wish that were different, but that's the way it seems to be going. The ultimate experience that I've read about when the astronauts go up to the moon. And of course, the first astronauts that went to the moon looked very carefully at the moon. And then unexpectedly, they looked back at Earth. And Earth is just so awesome outer space. It's so colorful, beautiful, and they were totally unprepared for this. They were expecting to look at the moon and find that it was awesome, but actually the moon is kind of monotonous. It's all gray, it's 100 shades of gray and rocks and gravel, but it wasn't that impressive. But they were totally blown away by just the sight of planet Earth, blue of the ocean, and all the land, and just no boundaries, just seeing it from outer space. It's just one planet. There's just something about, just how precious it is, and finding those nature moments wherever you can. So you may not be able to go out to the moon, but can you, gaze at a flower in your backyard and get the same sort of enjoyment from that?